What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of The Insiders. I'm back with my friends, the fellas, Euroball and Bressington. What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
I'm good. Busy days. These off seasons have been insane, man. Like, obviously, we have our group chat that's blowing up. Every coach is blowing up. Everyone, it's mental. It's great.
Yeah, man, doing well. I'm excited for the offseason. I think there's going to be some real talent pumping into the ELF this year. So who knows? 2024 was a great season. Who knows what 2025 will hold? Hopefully, it's even better.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, the offseason is where things get crazy. Things start to get interesting, and from what we're hearing around the parts. We just had to do this type of show here. So on this episode, and feel free to drop a comment, play along, let us know what you guys think. But I'm gonna give these fabulous analysts 12 players, and we're gonna see where they think they should go or what the dream fit would be. Not necessarily what we're hearing or not necessarily what we think might happen, or actually, what we think might happen, but what we want to see or where we want to see these players go. So play along, drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. At the end, we may give you a name or two of guys that didn't play in the ELF that should or could be playing in the ELF this year. So, fellas, are you ready?
Let's ready. Do it. Let's get it.
All right, Brez, you're first up on the list. It's only right that we introduce this guy, and he became a fan favorite towards the end of the season. But Mr. Isaiah Weed, everyone's favorite quarterback in the Central that was making marks late in the season and pushing Cologne a little bit towards a competitive run. Brez, where do you think is a perfect fit for Mr. Isaiah Weed?
I think it's a tough one because he needs a decent O-line, which Cologne had it was all right. Like, it was fine, but it wasn't superb. But you also need receivers that could be good in the short and intermediate range. And we're going off of expected signings. Obviously, there's a lot of signings that haven't been put into, but I think someone like Voshnav could be really interesting. There's a lot of short, intermediate possession receivers on that team, like Jazz. And I think that he could make an impact. His legs as well. You got David, that'd be quite a good 1-2 punch. Even returning into Cologne could be an option. But I think that, can I imagine him in light blue? Not really. I still think that it would be I think that would be box office stuff. I mean, we saw what they were doing at the end of the year. At the start of the year, they looked great. And then they had that weird, mid period. And at the end of the year, they looked really exciting with Norwood at quarterback. Yeah. So I think if we had him come in, he's going to be a better passer than Norwood naturally, brings a similar mobility to the pocket, and can, when he's locked in, be an extremely effective short and intimate passing. So I think that's my place I'd like to see Isaiah potentially in 2025.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Mr. Weed makes it to Poland Blue. It's definitely going to brighten things up a little bit. But, yeah, he definitely has a better 1-2 punch, especially if they can bring back, obviously Brozowski will probably stay if they can bring back Janini Adams. And, we'll see. But definitely got to shore up the offensive line in that capacity and see, what happens next. All right. Next guy we want to dive into, Jordan from Fourth Down Fiasco would appreciate this young fella who unfortunately didn't get a chance to finish his season. And we all started screaming, "Free Alex Posito," So Alex, let me ask you this. Where, assuming if not Barcelona, where would be a good fit for Alex to go? As an EU linebacker now. He's been a homegrown the past couple of years. He now be an EU linebacker.
Absolutely. I think this is a guy that he could easily, has the talent, has the skills to be an E spot in this league. The easy answer is Madrid, but I'm not going to give that answer. I'm going to go Posito to Hamburg. I think they missed him. They missed some linebackers last year. Yep. That was one of their weaknesses. I think he could shore up, the second level of the Sea Devils defense. And, that's kind of what they need. They need some guys. He's a great leader. He's played. Yeah. He's been one of the captains for Barcelona. Having a veteran like him come into a Sea Devils team that's going to have a lot of young players, a lot of new players, he could be the glue that meshes that defense together.
I mean, if you just look at his arm brace in this picture, bro's not afraid of contact.
Peak
And
linebacker aesthetic right here.
oh yeah, and the Jordan gloves. The guy is ready for war. Ready for war. I like that you didn't go with the Madrid pick. Obviously, he'd be a homegrown there. Could have happened. Maybe we'll see if he does have familiarity with Weidinger. But I like Hamburg. I was even thinking about Hamburg. I didn't know where would be a good fit. Maybe Munich, but obviously you don't know what Wales' situation is or sits. So we'll see. We'll see. But from one linebacker to another, and with this guy right here, we're assuming he's going to be on the market based on what we've seen from the organization and things starting to trickle out with, ownership dropping out. Some players already announcing that, they're looking for other, teams possibly. But, Brez, what do you think about Ludwig Myron?
I think a lot about Ludwig Myron. A really, really interesting player. And of course, naturally, people are going to talk about Nordic. But that's the easy pick, isn't it? No one wants to talk about the easy picks. What I want to talk about is maybe the Galaxy could be an interesting pickup for him.
Ooh.
Like they clearly want to reload.
That.
Yeah, it's nice, right? They have their whole we're going to beat Ryan Fire this year, and then they were shit, so they did not beat Ryan Fire, and they need a lot. And second level, they have Hugo. Not sure if you know Hugo Dyro, all-star.
Yep.
If they keep him, if he goes, they're not sure. He's got another pair that's linked strongly to Nordic, naturally. But he could be a good outside presence. They've got people that could surround him. They've got Darren Ngagwe as well, who's also with that team. They have a kind of a similar skill set, but I think the Ludwig's a little bit better. And I think it could just be fun. It's him buzzing around. He's a great tackler. He's obviously a very athletic linebacker who kind of plays in that kind of overhang area. Yeah. I think it could be I think that's a real, I can imagine him in the purple as well. It looks good.
Hey, Sebastian Gautier might be recruiting on the low.
Exactly.
Recruiting on the low. Hey, Ludwig might look good in purple, honestly. Ludwig might look good in purple. And it's going to be interesting to see what that coaching staff is and how they built their team and, going forward. Obviously, they got some NFL, front office experience in there now. But we'll see. We'll see. Ludwig Myron possibly to Frankfurt. Will it happen? What would be crazy? If all these predictions panned out, obviously we know some stuff, and we're not trying to hear break news and stuff like that. We're really giving our thoughts on, where would be a cool spot for these guys. But if all these pan out, you might as well just call us Nostradamus at this point.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we're 3 for 3 right now. So,
all right, Alex, I got a good one for you. This guy, one of Brez's favorite DBs, one of the guys he talked about this whole season. Someone who made the transition from one team, became an EU, and now if he's on the market, where do you see someone like Nitzlander landing?
Ooh, that's my guy.
Man, great European DB here. Nitzlander obviously was with the Raiders in 2023, then moved over to the Munich Ravens.
Shout out to the flock.
Shout out to the flock. Really interesting young player. Yeah, I think the market will be high for him. He has a really high ceiling, and everybody needs good DBs. With that being said, I'm going to say Nitzlander, he's been around in Munich. He's been around in Austria. I think he's going to take his talents to the Madrid Bravos.
Ooh,
that would be so sick.
And join a squad that will probably be a whole lot better next year, because I imagine Weidinger is going to be hitting up the phones. He's going to be sliding the DMs, getting some of the top E's to come to the Spanish capital.
Absolutely. When I first thought of this guy, where else I thought might be a decent fit? I don't know if he'd do it, but this team obviously just lost some guys due to retirement. What about Vienna?
That would be interesting.
What about Vienna? I don't know if he'd do that just because of the Raiders-Vikings connection, but they just lost Louis Horvath. Do they bring X back? I don't know. Do they bring back Nichols? I don't know. But they were a young secondary last year. A lot of young talent, a lot of depth. This guy's still young, experienced. I think Vienna could be possibly a good fit, maybe no one's thinking about, but we'll see.
Okay, then I love the Vienna Vikings, but I'm going to say Nitzlander, you're a young man. Go see the world. Go play in another spot. I would encourage him to do that. So that's why I said Madrid.
There we go. There we go. I like the Madrid one too. All right. I'm sorry, Ravens. You're gonna think we're piling up on you, but the only reason why, this next guy we're throwing him on the board is because of, the performance of his co-part, and that was, Justin Rodney. But Tommy Owewu, what do we think about Tommy Owewu? Obviously, injuries last year, didn't have the year two with the Ravens that he did in year one. Justin Rodney really came on. Like, could Owewu be on the market?
I think he's going to be.
So where's he going?
I love Tommy Owewu. I think that he's one of the best European running backs in the league, full stop. He's got amazing receiver value that I don't think anyone matches his receiver value out of the backfield in the league. So I think that he's the best receiver back. He's extremely shifty. But his stand on the field this year was an issue, right? He got hurt, was very much in and out of the team when he was on. He wasn't necessarily impacting the same way he was in 2023. I think the most interesting place would be Madrid, but obviously we've already said Madrid, so I'm going to go for a little bit different. I'm going to go for the Berlin Thunder because can you imagine?
They need a running back. They need a running back.
They need a running back. Albert is great, but Albert is more of a receiver running back as well. If they had him to come in as more athletic, a little bit more explosive, and a little bit able to do a bit more on the ground, that could really open up the offense. And of course, they've changed offensive coordinators now, and we're not sure how that team's going to really formulate. It's probably the team whose stock is lowering the most this offseason so far. Yeah. But I think that Tommy Owewu in Berlin would be an instant impact, a very versatile offensive weapon, and would bring a lot of explosive dynamicism to an offense that already has currently Ajax and people like Bias Kunda, who are also big rack threats.
Yeah, and they got good linemen too, and a lot of good homegrowns on that Berlin team. Again, you're gonna have to keep them. If I'm Berlin, you got to find a way to take some Potsdam talent. I don't know how you do it, but Tommy Wilson's there. You can use his as E. You just lost Robin Vilcek. I don't know who else is on Potsdam in terms of the talent, but obviously they're doing something well if they're putting up 100 points a game. So you got to find a way to dive into that Potsdam territory to grab some talent out of there. But Tommy would be a good fit, especially they keep the O-line. That's a good foundation, at least offensively. So we'll see about Mr. Tommy Owewu, or does he return back to the flock? We shall see. Alex, this guy came on late, and when he entered the ELF, he made his presence felt right from the jump. And I'm talking about Bijan Harris.
Ooh.
Yes. And Cologne, I'm not piling on you, but you did some good recruiting, and some guys going to get some looks. I'm sure this guy is one of them. Where's someone like this with this skill set fit in to a different team in the ELF if he were to go?
Man, Bijan Harris was such an impact player last year for Cologne. Huge part of them beating the Galaxy and having some big wins down the stretch. I think Bijan makes the jump from kind of Cologne and these mid-tier teams to a contending team this year. And I think he joins the Vienna Vikings.
Hey.
I was going to say.
They need some help. As you guys know, at DB is X back. It's Hunter Nichols back. Shout out to Hunter Nichols, by the way. I think maybe that's what's missing in the championship game, like a lockdown corner, right? Who could cover Kelvin McKnight? I was looking the other day. He had 9 catches for 150 yards in the championship. Right before the half, he scores that touchdown. All the momentum is gone that they just had, right? Absolutely sucked the game and their juice out of them. They need someone who can match a talented receiver like Kelvin McKnight, and to me, the answer is Bijan Harris.
Bijan to Vienna. That'd be scary season. That'd be scary
Absolutely.
season. Now you have someone who could literally, take up half the field in terms of just coverage abilities. And obviously they like to mix up their corners and play some nickel, play some safety, moving around. This guy, you don't even have to move around. Just leave him on one side. A guy I do want to give a quick shout out. A guy that we don't have here on the list that I'm interested to see if he gets picked up would be Ken Hike. We'll see. Obviously, with what happened with the mercenaries and what happened with nothing happened with Vienna, but he got released because the guys came back. But does Ken Hike get another shot in the league? We shall see. We shall see. Speaking of Ken Hike, someone that was Ken Hike's co-part back on Helvetic and really really made a name for himself with his second stint with Hamburg. And I'm talking about Nazir Streeter. Rez, let's talk about my Jersey co-part.
See, I like Nazir. I think he's very tough. He's very hard-nosed. He's coming into the box. He's making a serious difference.
Yeah.
As Fitz, so I think it needs someone to bring that energy. I think someone see, now I need, because I was thinking Voslav, but they need more of someone who's going to affect the passing game. I think someone like Prague could be really interesting because they need someone who's going to be dynamic in the box, stopping that run game. And then you got other weapons. And let me have a think. Maybe Raiders, that could be an interesting one. You have Devin Taylor. There's a cover corner who's going to lock down everyone. Who was the other American? I'm blanking on who the other American was on that defense.
I had two or three different guys.
Yeah,
throughout the season.
Yeah. So you need some stability. I'm going to go for the Raiders. They need someone to come in.
The Raiders.
The Raiders. They're a run-first team. They're going to run the ball down people's throats most times, and they need a physical defense. That's kind of what they are. And I think that they would benefit greatly by having Nazir because he's a very, very big player as well. And he can also return kicks. So
he's one of the few that big enough, strong enough, physical enough to play safety and also could cover like a corner. He's one of the few. He's one of the few that could do that. I mean, another interesting spot, depending on, what they do. And obviously a lot of people have been, as far as coaches, getting other opportunities, we're not sure about players as of yet. And do they even bring back, one of the two guys? But if Marlo Sean or Amari leave Ryan, he could be Jim Tonsulu would be a great fit with Nazir too at the Ryan Fire. The rich will get richer at that point. The rich will get richer. Let's go up front. Let's get some big guys in the mix. All right. Alex, friend of the show, friend of a lot of us, he chops it up. Mr. Keanu Ebanks, the big fella, been one of the top offensive tackles, if not the top offensive tackle since joining the ELF in year one. What do we think about the big fella?
I love Keanu Ebanks' game. I just saw him on the tube in London by total coincidence. Odds of that crazy low, by the way. Anyway, it was great to see him. I'm really excited for this offseason. I think there's a lot of teams that are probably messaging him right now saying, "Please, Keanu, please come." And I think Keanu wants a little bit of change of scenery, and I think he's going to take his talents to the Raiders. I think they need some help up front in the O-line. They want to lock down that tackle position. He's a leader. He can help some of the younger Austrian O-linemen as they kind of come up through the ranks. He's one of the more stable, organizations. Maybe if you're a quarterback, but other positions, you're pretty good there for the Raiders in Tyrol. And it's just a beautiful spot for European ball. This guy has played all over the continent, and so why not visit one of the premier programs in Tyrol?
And there's been some good tackles there. Obviously, you talk about Steven Nelson, you talk about Toby Letman. There's been some good tackles there, so to say. But if you're a quarterback, hopefully the Raiders are doing better. Ricardo, I know you're watching. We're praying Raiders are doing better in that aspect of it. But I mean the black and silver looks good with the big fellow with a dark visor. So
absolutely,
that's definitely a good one. All right. This guy started making noise the other day. This guy is saying he wants to play for a contender. He's been an ELF OG. He's wore green, he's wore red. But what color is he going to wear next? Where's Kyle? Where's Kyle going? Where's Kyle Kitchens going?
I think every single team's going to be on the phone to Kyle. Like this. He might be the most cooled American in the league this offseason, honestly. And I've heard two big ones. Just from rumors, where there's smoke, there's fire. You know,
I heard he looks good in black, red, and steel. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Just
I
saying.
mean, I've heard. I mean, I'm not sure if he's going to be going over there. I've heard Hamburg would be a good fit. You know, they need to get back up to relevancy, and he would definitely be a player to do it. Big market remains in Germany because let's be real, he's probably very, very close to having a German citizenship, which would
Yeah.
help, and I imagine that has been a factor. He's been in there for what 4 or 5 years. Regardless, maybe even more than that. I think Hamburg would be interesting. I think Munich would be interesting as well because Munich do have some very, 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 very good defensive linemen. You've got Louis, you've got you've got Zurigbal, you've got other players. Yeah, you got other players like Nasri who was in the team. You got Evans Europe, like insane. Like you add that man to Evans Yoruba and Zurigba, like that's demonic. Like that's just another level. So I think that's what they need to push themselves past because they had a lot of injuries with their A's throughout the season. They had Cole go out for Stanley, and that's on offense, and they had a couple guys switch out on defense. They had John Cole playing DB in the playoffs. Like it was kind of a little bit all over the shop, and he's been like kind of an Iron Man. Like he's never really missed much time significantly in the left, and he's been doubled most of the time. You double him, you're not going to be able to take on someone else. I think the Munich would be my favorite place to see Kyle Kitchens play.
I mean, you look at a defensive front; they do play that 3-3-5 stack. And I'm sure Kentrell will mix it up a little bit. But like, if he were to go to Munich, the Flock, Bavarian part of Germany, you're looking at a defensive front that has Zingerbull, Kitchens, and Yeboah in the middle. I mean, that's Christmas to linebackers. That's Christmas came early to linebackers.
Wow,
so, 2007 Giants right there.
And it's a contender. You know, it's a contender as well. And they need to push over to these Paris teams. They couldn't beat Paris. They need to push over those kind of teams. I think this is the kind of signing that will do that.
Most definitely. Well, we got 3 more, so we'll dive into these names. And Alex, next I want to get into someone who just got engaged with a beautiful love story. Someone who is not afraid of taking on challenges. He's been to 4 different teams in each year to ELF, and maybe he's looking for a 5th one. And I'm talking about the tight end we all love, Mr. Andrea Boteo Moreno.
Yes. Yeah. When you gave me the names before, I did a little walk down his career history lane, I guess, with Hamburg, Vienna, Paris, and then last year in Wrocław. So I was like, where could he go next? He's played for half the teams already.
Yeah. He's touched every conference.
Yes,
honestly. So I'm really just guessing here. No idea. It's a little tough because I think there's actually a lot of teams, the better teams in the league, have pretty good homegrown tight ends.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit tough to say, does he go back to Paris? They have Kevin Mwamba, right? Does he go to Vienna? They have some big tight ends that can play well. Raiders have Richard Weber, right? Yep. Where does he fit in? I think he joins the new kind of sexy team in the ELF with the Nordic Storm. I agree. I think they want to have some leadership in there, some guys that have played at this level for a long time. Obviously, Adria has played
he's played up there too.
Two championship games as well, I believe. Vienna and Hamburg. So this guy. You said he's played in Denmark?
He's played in the North, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I would say he goes to the Storm, just so he can keep adding, stamps his passport wherever he wants to go. Man, good for him.
Most definitely. One thing we do know is that he does not want to be home in Spain.
Don't know
that for a fact, but with the way he's traveled, I'm sure he likes to dive into other parts of the country. So, you know what? I'm gonna do a little switcheroo. All right, and then Alex, I'm gonna come back to you for this one just because I want to save the last person for last, just because I think he's so interesting. But again, we're diving back into the capital of Germany, and it just seems like this guy is going to be on the move somewhere, not necessarily because maybe he wants to, just because of what's been going on with the organization. So what do we think about Jacob Selman? Where could he possibly land?
This was a tough one, right? Because this guy's an established QB, first ever ELF champion a few years ago. Even in Berlin, I thought, he led the league in passing. He did a lot of great things for them. Where does he end up? I was thinking, possibly the Storm, possibly the Bravos. We don't know Duncan's situation.
Yeah.
But then I thought, I think he's coming back to the Frankfurt Galaxy.
Oh!
The comeback is on Jacob Selman. My prediction is he heads back to Frankfurt. They need a QB. I think we can all agree the Galaxy lost the breakup last year.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they make up and he comes back to Frankfurt.
Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with going back and trying to rekindle a relationship. Maybe Jacob and Frankfurt are just meant to be together.
Jacob, you up?
They said the you up threats. Oh man, that definitely be interesting. Obviously, you got to get him a number one receiver.
Yeah.
When he had Reese, he probably had his best statistical year. When he had Anthony Mahungu, he had a great year that year too. And it's crazy because now when you think about it, is that first year, obviously they wouldn't change anything. They won a championship, but they could have been even more dangerous than what they were if they got an American receiver. But hindsight 2020, you don't really need one. Their only loss was week 1. They won the rest of the way. So, you could just disregard that comment. But anyway, Jacob back in Frankfurt, I like it. I like it. This next guy, never say never. And this next guy we want to dive into, Matt, will he be joining Jacob in Frankfurt? I don't know, but I think this is probably, when we talk offensively, probably one of the most interesting people in regards to wondering where he's going to land. And I am talking about, he had one of his best seasons this year. Aaron Jackson, A-Jack. Where is this guy going to be headed to, Bryce?
Oh, man, this is a tough one because he's so damn good. He's probably my number one receiver in the league. No, again, everyone is going to be blowing him up. Now, let me think about who I would like. I think there's a lot of established American receiver. I think last year we had like a ton of really, really great players come into the league, like Austin Mitchell coming into Paris. I think was a great sign. Then you got Stanley that came back as well with Munich. I'd like to see him remain there. So there are a lot of the top teams kind of already have their guy, right? I have McKnight as well. So there's a lot of guys I think already have it. Daryl Stewart struggled with injuries. Maybe we see Ajax go to the Surge. I don't know. Both of those great players. You got Sweeten, didn't have the greatest of playoff runs. Maybe you see him go to the Raiders.
Raiders get the quarterback. I like him in the black. If the Raiders get a quarterback,
yeah, that would be good. I'm going to go for Madrid there because I think that Madrid. You got Andrew with Ajax and with whoever the other piece is and the other Spanish talent that we know is really, really good. I think that's really, really interesting because he's a deep threat. He can definitely be the top of the defense. I like to call it a 3-level threat: short, intermediate, deep. He can literally get to everywhere and special teams, maybe even a 4-level threat. He's the best, right? There's really anyone. There's a couple of people that could contend with that, but he is definitely among the top. And I think Madrid, they need to get over the Paris and the Rhine in that conference. That West is deadly. Like still, even if we're going to have realignment, we're going to have the Nordic Storm, we're going to have Rhine, we're going to have Madrid, we're going to have Paris, potentially all in one conference. So they need to make a splash signing, and I think that he's the guy. I think the Willie tools are great, but I think the Ajax is just that step up.
Yeah, this is Weidinger's like perfect mix of a guy who could play in the slot, like a Kyle Sweet, a guy who could be a factor in return game like a Calvin McKnight, a guy who is versatile in a mismatch nightmare like Nathaniel Robitaille, but he's probably like a notch or maybe just a little bit better than all of them. Like this, like especially in a scheme that Andrew Weiger knows how to draw his receivers open. Like this would be like this would be like the best paella they've ever had in Spain. Like,
Unreal.
like Ajax is definitely, going to be interesting. I'm excited to see where he lands, because that's going to be a good one. As we mentioned earlier in the show, drop a comment. Let us know where you think some of these guys might end up, and we'll conversate. We'll dabble a little bit. Now I want to talk a little bit about, real quick before we end the show, I want to dive into, give you some names to consider, maybe help some GMs out, maybe give a little bit more film work to some guys. So we're going to throw some names out there. Alex, I'll start with you. Give me a name of a guy not playing or has not played in the ELF that should be considered for this year.
All right, I'm going to go a little bit outside the box, not a player, but instead a coach.
Hey.
I think this guy could end up in the ELF. John Gruden.
Jay Grew.
We've seen the TikToks. We've seen the YouTube shorts. It's frightening. Get this guy in a front office. Get this guy back on the sideline and away from my Instagram feed. I think John Gruden, he had a partnership with Milan. He knows about the ELF. There we go. Gruden grinder. Look at that face. I love it. I can't wait to see that on the sideline for maybe an ELF team next summer.
Let's introduce that Spire 2Y banana to the ELF.
There we go.
That'd be good. Jim Ward just left Milan, became the linebackers coach for the Raiders. Maybe that's a fit for Gruden to get in, and who knows if let's just say this did happen. Can you imagine, what recruiting will look like for guys that may want to go and now play for Milan?
If he goes to Milan, that'd be weird.
Game changer.
And that'd be wild. So we'll see, but that'd be dope. I mean, obviously we're seeing some NFL experience dabble in, so we'll see. Brez, who you got, man? Give us a guy teams should be paying attention to, and maybe slide into their DMs after watching this.
See, I've been talking about Nico Barrow for about 2-3 seasons, and I'm sick and tired of not seeing him in the ELF. I want Nico Barrow in the ELF, and I want it now.
This is your new Nitslander.
Yeah, no, this is before Nitslander. I've done articles and I've written stuff about Nico for years. I want him in the ELF. I want it now because if people haven't seen him, let me pick you a visual picture. Imagine Glenn, but with a little bit more receiver value. I love you, Glenn. Please don't hurt me. But Nico is a phenomenal receiving back out of backfield. He's 5'11". He's 240 pounds, give or take. He runs through people like they're not even existing. He has some injury issues. Granted, he has some injury issues this year, so didn't really play that much for the Monarchs. But look at last season's tape. That's more, when he's in his prime, he's killing people. We had 2,000 scrimmage yards in that year. Yeah. He's incredible. He's Finnish as well, so he would count as an E. The E running back has been very popular over the last couple of seasons, got a ton of them. I think that he fits into a mold like a Dwayne Obi and like a Glenn. So I would like to see him somewhere, maybe for the Nordic team. I think that'd be a good fit. Yeah. Maybe somewhere that's already used those backs, like with Madrid or Ryan, similar kind of systems. I want Nico Barrow. I'm sick and tired of asking for it. Someone make it happen now.
Yeah, listen, E's are popular. I know a lot of good. Let me first say, I know a lot of teams in the ELF that could use a good running back. We'll just leave it at that. So
we haven't heard anything. Oh,
yeah. So let's take advantage of this advice that we're throwing out here to you guys. Barrow's out there. I mean, someone slide into his DMs right now, and let's get this man. Let's get this man out there. All right. When I thought about this, who I wanted to, present, I just kept going up north. Towards the Nordic countries, and I started thinking about players that I've seen and know. And Brez put out a list on First Down Magazine of some of the top 10 e-ports for the Storm to consider. Now, when I look at this list, not just Storm related, but just in general, Will Sewell be a great linebacker. Alpha Jal, we already know about him. He's playing the ELF. I think Christian Powell personally is the best running back in all of Europe, including EUs and Americans. Tim Nuka, we've talked about him. Basel Weber, please come back to Switzerland. There's a lot of names we want to dive into, but one name I learned about when doing this assignment. Chris Akanu for the Crocodiles. Bro is a beast. He is. You want to talk about someone that could potentially be equal to Kyle Kitchens, like speed, athleticism, unblockable, taking down double teams, splitting double teams. Like this guy is an animal. So, if you're looking for an American DN, he's right there in Finland. Shout out to Finland because they got 2 shout outs during the segment. But this guy, go watch this film. This guy is a dog. He's a beast. And I'd be interested to see if there's a team that is entertaining his services for next year.
Maybe Berlin.
Maybe Berlin. Maybe they're replacing their Kyle Kitchens if Kyle is going like he says he's going to. But, we shall see. And then going back to this list, I'm hoping we see a lot of these guys next year. Like, there's a lot we've already talked about. Obviously, we know about these guys, but this is a great list. And obviously, Timmy Nuka is a favorite of mine. I don't know how many times I've said it, and I talked to Brez about it and talked to Alex about it. But we'll see. We'll see if the Alpha comes back. Right, the Leipzig Kings Alpha. Gave us good return highlights and offense and defense highlights. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. Well, that's it, fellas. Hopefully we might have helped some teams, prep going into this ELF offseason as things are starting to trickle in.
Yeah, great episode. Great talking to you guys. I'm sure there's going to be breaking news within the next week or so. More stuff
right
happening.
When the show releases.
Probably, yeah.
Sounds like a hint.
Well, appreciate you guys. Again, let us know what you guys think. Drop a name if there's a name that you want to see in the ELF. Add to the conversation and see where you want to see certain guys go. But we'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in. This is the Insiders on First Down Magazine podcast.